And here we go.
It's that time of the show when we check on the latest in sports. Only the most important topics and questions are brought to light.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
These news stories will astound and amaze you. The one, the only.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
The Big Five starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
All right. I wish we could just fast forward time into game 60 or something. I don't like the early game part of the MLB season because I overreact to everything far too much. And so I'm overreacting, guys. I'm feeling a little weird about this team. I'm feeling a little bit of shades of last year. I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety bubbling to the surface.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you.
Number 5.
What you got?
Chris is going to love. Tony's going to be up first, though.
All right.
Last year, we started off the year, as we all know we did. And we're like, hey, once they gel, water is going to find its level at some point, everybody. And then we said, well, they're still gelling. And then they were still gelling, and then we know what happened with 2023. This year, we didn't want to do that again. Tony, do we need to be patient as this team gels? Oh, wait, hold on. Do we need to be patient as this team gels?
I don't even need to see Tony's reaction.
I don't even know how to really answer this question without laughing.
You can laugh at me.
I just think that we just have to let the season kind of unfold a little bit more before we start, feeling any type of way. Let's just watch baseball for, I don't know, at least and I know I'm asking a lot, but for a month. If you can't do a month, let's do 3 weeks.
This is why I'm asking this question. You guys are like my therapist. He can't do it.
He was already buying World Series tickets last Friday after they were 2-1.
It was just really nice to see them come back and win a game.
That was 4 days ago.
I know, Chris, but then they lost 2. They lost 2 to the Giants, and then now they've
lost 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's time to fire the manager.
No, I didn't say that. I think you guys know me enough by now that I'm not fire the manager yet.
Not yet.
Let's just let the baseball games be played for a little bit.
All right, Chris, do we need to be patient as this team gels?
Well, I don't know why it would be any different with this team as opposed to any other team. But I mean, I'll just give you an idea how absurd it is to overreact to their record right now. If you're going to overreact to their record, then we're all getting ready for a Pirates-Tigers World Series this year because both teams are undefeated.
Good point.
And I don't think anybody's planning on a Pirates-Tigers World Series this year. Yeah. I mean, almost every team in baseball, save probably the A's and most likely save the Rockies, is going to win 5 in a row at one point. And that's what the Pirates have done. It's a good story, but you have to let a little more baseball be played before you crown them as champions. And I know you agree with that.
Yeah.
So if you agree with that, then you should agree with the fact that every team in baseball dozens of times this year is going to lose 3 out of 4 games. Dozens of times. It's going to happen often. So, the last few games, obviously they haven't had the kind of pitching that they're going to need to be successful. And, you fall behind 3-4 runs early in ball games like that. It's difficult, and they haven't pitched well yet, but 7 games is unfortunately not enough. Not even, honestly, to be crazy to say this, Skraby, but even 70 games isn't enough.
I can't do 70.
I can't
do
You're
it.
asking too much.
Yeah,
now.
I know.
You're going too far.
I know, but I'm trying to get him to understand that 7 is absurd.
I put my integrity on the line last year for 130 games.
The Washington Nationals were in last place with about a month and a half to go in the 2019 season. Not last, but they were way under 500.
Yeah.
They ended up winning the World Series. I'm not saying that means this Padre team is a World Series team, but before we, break the bank to bring in Tommy Pham or Brandon Belt and give up on everything that we're trying to do, You have to see a whole lot more baseball than this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tony, anything else to add?
Yeah, man.
He does.
70 games is probably still not enough.
I
but
know.
I know we're asking way too much from not just you, Skraby. I think there are a lot of people who are much like you who are already, planning the funeral.
I am not planning the funeral. All right, whatever.
3 out of 4 is just disgraceful.
Well, when water finds its level, everybody.
It's funny. They won like 14 of their last 16 games. The water was starting to creep up last year.
It
But it just happened too late. It just happened too late.
They ran out of games.
Yes, that's right. They ran out of
Number 4.
Major League Baseball Players Association Executive Director Tony Clark received more than $4.25 million in compensation in 2023 with a $3.25 million salary and $1 million bonus, nearly doubling his total the previous year, according to financial reports released on Monday. The revelation of his salary, which was $2.25 million in 2022, comes in the wake of an uprising at the union in which attorney Harry Marino attempted to garner support from players to replace the union's deputy executive director, Bruce Meyer. And when I was trying to figure out what to ask about this, I came to this. Chris, does this really matter to baseball fans?
No, not even in the least. I would think some people think that Tony Clark makes too much money, but they're the same people that think that baseball players make too much money. And they're the same people that forget that owners make way more money than all of them put together. So if Tony Clark was able to get $4.5 million out of the pockets of these rich owners, good for him.
What does Rob Manfred make? A lot more than that, I'm thinking.
A ton more. He's representing these guys, and I mean, it's a great position to be in. But salaries are continuing to skyrocket, and the owners and everybody should be happy in baseball. Revenues are skyrocketing around the sport. The value of these teams continues to go through the roof. There's enough for everybody. But as far as whether or not, I don't even know what'd you say his name was? Bruce Meyer?
Bruce Meyer was
I don't even know what he did. So
he was the union's deputy executive
he was a negotiator.
director.
But my point being that if I didn't know what he does, I doubt too many fans know or care what he does. So it's good for Tony Clark. He's a San Diego guy. I'm happy when anybody can draw a bunch of money away from the owners because they get too much.
His job is not easy either.
Probably not. It's probably as difficult, if not more so, than Rob Manfred's.
Yeah. Rob Manfred just gets drunk and presents trophies.
Rob Manfred's got to represent 30 owners, right? Tony Clark's got to represent 600-700 players.
Good point, Chris.
That's a lot of people to be responsible for.
Yeah.
Tony, does this really matter to baseball fans?
No, it doesn't matter to baseball fans at all. It is an interesting thing, though, as a former player, reading some of this stuff and what's going down and like the feel it gives you. It was noted that the uprising happened and then it fell apart as more and more players, when it got time to actually voting on that kind of stuff, it's like, nah, man, you're 30 something years old. I don't know if you know much enough about this. But no, I don't think the baseball fans really care. Just make sure the baseball's on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And the turnstiles are open for us to come through. That's all they care about.
It's true.
Number 3.
I'm going to ask you guys a tough question on this one. Caitlin Clark dropped 41 points on LSU, and the Hawkeyes are moving on to the women's Final Four. But on Undisputed this morning, Paul Pierce, I'm trying to cue up the video. Paul Pierce said this.
Yeah, it's beyond that, Key. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to just keep it 100 with you. We saw a white girl in Iowa do it to a bunch of black girls. Well, of course. That made it like, that gained my respect. That gained my respect.
I hear you. You're
like,
right.
That's like, she didn't do this to some other little white girls that was over here in Colorado, wherever. She did it to some girls from LSU who we thought was some dogs.
Defending champs.
And put them on their knee and spanked them. And so I know, but I didn't expect that.
All right, so there you go, Paul Pierce. Does anybody else catch Skip Bayless going, yeah, like just being the hype guy? Anyway, as you can imagine, this has caused a few feelings around parts of this country. Tony, how do you feel about what Paul Pierce said?
I don't know that it's accurate. I mean, I don't know, and maybe it's just me. It when I watched that basketball game, I wasn't seeing, obviously Caitlin Clark was just bombing threes from literally all over the court. She was being guarded by Haley Van Lathan, who was, white most of the game. That's not what I was paying attention to. The irony in this is that when the Lakers and Celtics used to play, part of the reason I think Larry Bird was given so much love from everybody, black, white, whatever, was because he was doing it against brothers, basically. And he was really the only one. The thing is, that's not what I'm looking at right now or yesterday when I watched that game. It was two really good teams, well matched, a rematch of last year's finals. But I didn't see it that way. But I would be crazy to think that is not what some people are seeing, though. I think we're trying to fool ourselves if we believe that that's how everybody viewed it. The reality is Paul is saying something on the type of show where those type of things get said because people like us will talk about it on our show.
I fell for it.
That's what drives it. He had to come up with something original to say about that particular game. Everything else has pretty much been said about it. But I can see why that made people uncomfortable for sure.
Chris, how do you feel about what Paul Pierce said?
I feel crappy about what Paul Pierce said.
Really?
Yeah, I do. We talked about this, you and I, yesterday going into this game. This is exactly what's wrong with the media that's covering sports right now, is that they're latching onto this kind of stuff. Stories of, good versus evil, white versus black, class versus, players that are, spouting off all the time. We can't look at this as just a basketball game between Iowa and LSU, and it's really a shame. And I know that Paul Pierce has to come up with something different to say, but it doesn't mean he has to come up with something that is totally misguided and misplaced. And to me, it's just fueling the whether you want to say misogynistic, racist feel that goes along with some of these basketball games. But I just think it leads us down the wrong path. And for Skip Bayless, who's always an idiot as far as I'm concerned, to basically be sitting there nodding his head and say, yeah, you go, Paul, you go, basically just shows how, off, beat this guy is and where he's coming from. Caitlin Clark, unfortunately, I wish she could just be a basketball player. I do. What Tony says about Larry Bird is true, but Larry Bird also played in the 1980s. We're in the 2020s now. I would like to think we can start moving beyond this. I know we probably never will get there fully, but it's unfortunate that this has to come up and we can't just appreciate a great performance.
Did you see, by the way, Ben Bolch put up an apology?
The LA Times
10 minutes
article,
before we talked about it yesterday?
Yeah, he did. He put up an apology about, his good versus evil story. And, I'll tell you one thing. I watched the entire game last night to see if there would be any kind of slip-ups, and I felt like LSU handled defeat with, as much class as anybody could handle it with. So good on those kids.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's one of those things that in the perfect world, we would just be watching, a basketball game. But that is
it's not a perfect world.
As you watch that game, I don't know if it's because it's I don't feel like it's marketed that way, right? I don't feel like it's marketed but there is a sense of bad versus good, right? And
yeah,
and why is that? You hate to make it more than about sports, but we did watch a whole year of, reports on Angel Reese, whatever, was happening early when she wasn't playing.
True.
And it all started after she won the national championship and she put the ring up. Nothing was prior to that point. It really all that much been said. And so it's hard not to feel that bad versus good feel that that game had on it. Now, I mean, I've been a defender of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark during this situation because, as they said, they don't hate each other.
Yeah,
but
they don't care.
that is literally how it feels when you watch that game. And I think, Paul Pierce just didn't have the right language, I guess, to massage that point in there a little bit better. He just got straight to the he didn't beat around the bush at all when he was talking about it. So that's kind of the sports world we live in, unfortunately. And whether it was Bird in the 80s, whether it was White Chocolate, Jason Williams in the 2000s, there's always been that on the men's side when there's a white guy that can play.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Cream.
Yes.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, this conversation could go on because there's so many different facets to it. But when Brock Purdy is tearing apart a mostly black NFL secondary, does anybody look at him and go, well, he's the great white hope because he's gunning passes in there against all these terrific athletes? Why not?
No, because for up until maybe the last 5-6 years, that particular position has always been looked at as a Brock Purdy like position until recent years of the all of a sudden mobile quarterback. And as you've made the point of many times, in today's NFL, you need one of those type of quarterbacks. They happen to look a lot like myself in that regard, and so it's kind of changed. That's why it doesn't seem like that maybe in that particular sport, because you're right. I mean, there's always been a lot more black men playing the football sport than white men, but at that particular position up until maybe 5-6 years ago, that was kind of the case.
Yeah. I mean, we do comment when there's like a wide receiver or something like Cooper
exactly,
Kupp, like
exactly.
A white safety.
How about your boy?
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like that's
running
why
back.
He's the best running back in the league. And aside from being the best running back, the first thing that most people say, he's a white running back. Like you just,
it's true.
He's
pretty good for a white running back.
He's pretty good.
I feel like it's been talked about more with Caitlin Clark and LSU and Iowa women's basketball than all the other sports combined. And I think that's what the women are upset about. They want to just be looked upon as athletes and players.
All right. I hate to cut you guys off, but we got to get
this
moving.
is a good one. We hadn't had like
a debate.
Yeah, good conversation.
There's a lot
like
to
that.
this one. That's all.
Yeah, there is.
There is.
Number 2.
So I guess this happened a month ago, but I'm now just seeing this. And I also got to mark off Googling ACC swimming controversies from my bingo card. So here's where we're going with this, guys.
Oh, boy.
A swimmer's disqualification on a technicality after winning a college conference final has led to one teammate branding the decision as the quote-unquote dumbest rule in swimming. Owen Lloyd, a senior at North Carolina State, clinched North Carolina State in the news a lot for athletics.
Man, they are balling there.
Yeah,
They're department. Somebody's getting a raise.
Seriously, they clinched the 1,650-yard freestyle title.
Yeah.
It's a long swim.
Okay.
How many laps is that?
I don't even know. I'll have to do the calculations on my supercomputer at home. But they won in February. He was promptly stripped of his title after climbing into the adjacent lane to celebrate with teammate Ross Dant, who finished in second before the other swimmers had touched the wall. The meet's head referee implemented Rule 2, Section 5. Chris is very well familiar with that one of the NCAA rulebook, which states that a swimmer who changes lanes during a heat shall be disqualified, leading to his disqualification. Here's what I wanted to bring is his teammate, Ross Dant.
Congratulations on one hand. Do you have any idea what happened and your emotions right now?
I think that's the dumbest rule in swimming. Owen beat me fair and square. He should be on that toe of the podium. He was excited. That's a huge fun for him, right? He earned that, and that's his emotion, right? That's what we get in the sport of swimming when we do well. We train all year for a moment like that, and to have him disqualified, I think is the dumbest thing ever.
Do you mind if
He works so hard every day. He is going to be on the #1 trophy. I am not going to stand up there.
Do you mind if I ask you what rule did he break? We haven't even heard of up here.
Whenever you win, you're not allowed. Well, the other teams, or excuse me, the other swimmers are still swimming. You have to stay in your own lane. You're not allowed to jump or cross over the lane line into someone's lane. And in his celebration, which he earned, he came over to my lane. No,
I'm sorry about the music in the background. It made everything a lot more dramatic. I did not.
Where'd you pull that from?
I'll just tell everyone. For some reason, History and Memes on X posted that video.
That's why you have that music.
Yeah, and yeah, and so they put the music behind it because it was very dramatic and heartfelt. Ross Dant, great guy. Chris, is this a dumb rule?
Signing your scorecard in golf is no longer the dumbest rule in sports.
Oh, this is the dumbest rule. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anybody knows how stupid this. I don't know where they got it from. Obviously, they don't want you gallivanting around in another lane while people are swimming. But I mean, to go over and congratulate, your teammate and
who's
already finished as well. Too often in officiating, and this goes for when I referee basketball games, people don't use common sense in applying the rules. And obviously common sense could have been applied better here, but it wasn't. Somebody stuck with the
Rule 2, Section 5. Come on, Chris.
Yeah, 2 sections. I know.
Letter of the law, Chris. Letter of the law.
Okay, fine. Letter of the law.
I don't think you can be our referee anymore. You're not going by the book.
Well, it's probably why I haven't been asked to referee like a CIF state final, because I don't referee to the letter of the law. Sometimes I try to use common sense, and a lot of times the people in charge of that don't like that. But in this case, it's pretty ridiculous.
We're going to have to band together this next off season to make sure Chris gets us some CIF.
CIF.
We
should make it our campaign.
Good luck with that.
This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, we need to. I'm so fired up over this. I can't speak, but we need to campaign for this.
Yeah, I think so. Let's start something next year.
All right, Tony, what do you think? Is this a dumb rule?
Yes.
Okay.
It's really dumb. It's. As Chris said, it is now taking the lead in the dumbest rule in all sport. Did he hop into a lane where there was actual swimming going on?
I don't think so. I think he just into his teammate's lane who finished. Yeah,
right.
They were celebrating. I mean, he just
crazy.
finished a swim across the Pacific Ocean. Let him celebrate. 1,650 yards is a long way, Chris.
All the way across the Pacific Ocean.
I mean, that's basically what that is to me. All right, we are really short on time. The A's have a lot going on right now, and they're once again giving their fans a conspiracy theory to fuel them in their fire. The A's sent Estuary Ruiz down to AAA, and here's what GM David Force said. Quote, "We saw some better at-bats this spring, but the reality is to use his skills, he needs to get on base. He needs to be able to do that on a consistent basis. I'm hoping leading off every day at AAA, it's not a long stay for him down there." End quote. An A's fan group brought up the fact that Ruiz and Brent Rooker had been seen wearing LDB wristbands, which are known to support the A's staying in Oakland. They even were wearing them during games. So fans are thinking these two guys were punished for supporting the fan group. Can't prove any of that, of course, but that doesn't change the fact that this is just the most recent example of poor decision-making from the front office of a team who clearly does not care about winning baseball games, guys. Ruiz, by the way, in 7 ABs, had a triple-double and a single. So, Tony, are the A's tanking even more?
No.
Don't like it when you're so down
I'm
about my theories.
I mean, it's just if I watched. I mean, Estuary's probably in his 7 at bats. He's got 3 knocks. That's awesome, but his skill set, as we saw here when he was a Padre, is getting on base, being able to cause havoc. And yes, in the 7 at bats, 7 opportunities he's had, he's been able to do something with it. But they don't view him as a 4th outfielder. They want him to be able to be in that leadoff spot and getting on base. And so he's going to go down and work on it. He said it's not going to be a long stay for him. So he can go down there and do what he has to do. He'll be back up and he'll probably be leading off for that team. But got to get on base. Got to be more consistent. That's hey, you know what? You have to actually earn the right to be a big leaguer, and you have to do everything right to stay a big leaguer. It's not always that easy.
Sorry to put you on the clock, Chris.
No, I just want to say one thing.
What?
I did not know the A's even had a general manager.
Okay. It wasn't John Fisher's assistant?
I did not know they even had somebody making those kinds of decisions
now you do.
On that team.
Yes, now you do. All right, that's it for the Big Five. Thanks, guys. When we get back,